The space around the Korean vessel Baekdu was quiet and dark. Captain Lee Dae-ho sat in his command chair, watching the stars through the main screen. His crew had been out here for 3 months, looking for rare minerals in the empty space between star systems. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings," said Navigation Officer Kim Tae-woo from his station. The young man frowned at his screens. "There's some kind of energy pattern about 2 light years from here. I've never seen anything like it." Dae-ho stood up and walked over to look at the data. The readings showed waves of unknown energy coming from what should have been empty space. "Could be a natural phenomenon," he said, "or maybe something artificial. Either way, it's worth checking out." Chief Engineer Park So-min looked up from her console. "Sir, if it's artificial, it could be alien technology. We should be careful." "We're always careful, So-min," Dae-ho replied with a small smile. "But we're also explorers. Tae-woo, set a course for those energy readings. Let's see what we can find." The Baekdu turned slowly and began moving toward the mysterious signals. The ship was not large by military standards, but it was well built and reliable. It carried a crew of 50 people, all experts in space exploration and mineral survey work. Communications specialist Han Yuri was monitoring all frequencies as they traveled. "Still nothing on any of the standard channels, Captain. Whatever's is causing those energy readings isn't trying to talk to anyone." Security Chief Choi Hyun-woo checked his weapon systems for the 3rd time that day. He was a careful man who believed in being ready for anything. "Sir, I recommend we approach slowly. If this is some kind of alien technology, we don't know. If it's friendly." "Agreed," Dae-ho said. "Take us in at quarter speed. Keep all sensors active." Dr. Yoon Jae-min, the ship's scientist, was excited by the possibilities. "Captain, if we're about to make first contact with an alien species, this could be the most important day in human history." As they got closer to the energy source, the readings became stronger and more complex. Tae-woo studied his navigation screens carefully. "Sir, the energy patterns are affecting space-time itself. It's like reality is bent in that area." "Some kind of gravitational anomaly?" Dae-ho asked. "Maybe, but the patterns are too regular. This has to be artificial." They continued forward for several hours. The energy readings grew stronger with each passing minute. Finally, Tae-woo announced that they were close enough to see the source with their telescopes. "Put it on the main screen," Dae-ho ordered. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge go quiet. In the distance, they could see what looked like a tear in space itself. Energy flowed around its edges like water around a drain. The tear was perfectly circular and appeared to be stable. "Is that some kind of wormhole?" Yuri asked. So-min was already running scans. "The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases, but yes, it appears to be an artificial wormhole. Someone built this thing." Dae-ho thought for a moment. They were explorers, but they were also responsible for their crew's safety. "Can we determine where it leads?" "The other end appears to be about 50,000 light-years away," Tae-woo said, checking his instruments. "That would put it far, outside known space." "Sir," Dr. Yoon said excitedly, "this could be our chance to make contact with an advanced alien civilization. Think about what we could learn." Hyun-woo was less enthusiastic. "Or it could be a trap. We have no idea who built this or why." "There's only one way to find out," Dae-ho said. "But I won't order anyone through that thing. This has to be a volunteer mission." Every person on the bridge immediately volunteered. Dae-ho smiled. "I should have expected that." "Very well. But we go in carefully and ready to leave quickly if necessary." The Baekdu approached the wormhole slowly. As they got closer, the ship's instruments went wild with readings. Energy flowed around them, but the ship seemed stable. "I'm reading some kind of scanning beam," So-min reported. "Someone on the other side is taking a look at us. Should we try to communicate?" Yuri asked. "Not yet," Dae-ho decided. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." Tae-woo made final preparations for the jump. "Sir, I should warn you that I'm not sure about our navigation once we go through. The energy fields might affect our instruments." "Understood. Take us through." The Baekdu moved forward into the wormhole. For a moment, everything went white. The crew felt a strange pulling sensation. as if the universe was stretching around them. Then suddenly they were through. What they saw on the other side made them all stare in shock. They were in the middle of a vast star system with not one, but 3 suns. Massive space stations orbited the central star, each one larger than Earth's moon. Ships moved between the stations in organized patterns, but these were not human ships. "Captain," Yuri said in a quiet voice, "I'm receiving signals from multiple sources. The language is completely unknown, but the patterns suggest highly advanced communication systems." "How many ships are out there?" Daeho asked. Taewoo was busy counting contacts on his screens. "At least 300 vessels within scanner range. Some of them are enormous. The largest ones are over 10 kilometers long." Somin was analyzing the alien technology. "Sir, the energy signatures from those ships suggest power systems far beyond anything we have. Whoever built these things is centuries ahead of us." Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Hyunwoo looked at his security console with growing concern. "Captain, multiple ships are changing course. They're all heading toward us." "How many?" Daeho asked. 50. "No, 75 ships now moving in our direction. And Captain, they're big. The smallest ones are twice our size." Dr. Yoon was both excited and nervous. "This is it, Captain. First contact with an alien civilization. This moment will be remembered forever." Yuri was working frantically at her communication station. "I'm trying to analyze their language patterns. The signals are becoming more frequent and urgent. I think they're trying to tell us something." "Probably to surrender or leave," Hyunwoo said grimly. "Sir, those ships are armed. I'm reading energy signatures that look like weapon systems." Daeho remained calm, but his mind was racing. They had stumbled into what appeared to be a major alien civilization's home system. The aliens clearly had superior technology and overwhelming numbers. A wise captain would try to retreat immediately. "Taewoo, can we get back through the wormhole?" he asked. The young navigator checked his instruments. "The wormhole is still there, but the alien ships are positioning themselves between us and the exit. If we try to run, they'll intercept us." So-min looked up from her engineering console. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the approaching ships. I think they're charging weapons." The alien fleet was now clearly visible on the main screen. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They had sleek designs with curves and angles that seemed impossible. Light flowed along their hulls in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Sir," Yuri said, "I think I'm starting to understand some of their communication patterns. They're definitely trying to contact us. Should I try to respond?" Daeho made his decision. He had spent his life exploring the unknown. He was not about to be intimidated now, even if these aliens had technology beyond human understanding. "Yes," he said firmly. "Open a channel." "Sir, are you sure?" Hyunwoo asked. "We don't know their intentions." "Then let's find out," Daeho replied. "Yuri, can you put together a basic greeting?" The communications specialist worked quickly. "I think so, Captain. I'll try to use mathematical concepts and basic symbols to show peaceful intent." "Do it." Yuri transmitted humanity's first message to an alien civilization. It was simple. Mathematical sequences, pictures showing human anatomy, and basic concepts like peace and exploration. The response was immediate. The alien ships stopped their approach and began transmitting back. The signals were complex and rapid. "They're responding," Yuri said excitedly. "The patterns are becoming more sophisticated. I think they're trying to establish a translation protocol." "Can you understand any of it?" Daeho asked. "Some concepts are becoming clear. Words for ship, beings, and location. But there's something else. They keep using patterns that might mean submission or surrender." So-min frowned. "That doesn't sound good." More alien ships were arriving every minute. The Baekdu was now surrounded by over 100 vessels, each one clearly superior to their own technology. "Captain," Taewoo said, "I'm reading massive structures deeper in the system. Space stations the size of small moons, shipyards, what looks like industrial facilities. This isn't just a colony. This is the heart of a major civilization." Dr. Yoon was taking notes frantically. The implications are staggering. We're looking at a spacefaring civilization that spans multiple star systems. The level of organization and technology suggests they've been in space for thousands of years. Hyunwoo was less impressed with the scientific implications. Sir, weapon systems on the alien ships are now fully charged. I recommend we try to communicate our peaceful intentions more clearly. Yuri, can you send a more detailed message? Daeho asked. I can try, Captain. But I should warn you that their language seems to have concepts we don't have words for. There are patterns that might refer to dominance, hierarchy, and control. The largest alien ship, a massive Vess. The massive alien space station grew larger as the Baekdu approached. Captain Daeho watched through the main screen as their escort of alien ships guided them toward what appeared to be a docking bay. The station was so big that their entire ship would fit inside just one small section of it. Captain, Han Yuri said from her communication station, I'm receiving new signals. The translation is getting better, but the content is unusual. What do you mean? Daeho asked. They keep asking about our submission protocols and surrender ceremonies. It's like they expect us to follow some kind of formal process for giving up. Chief Engineer Park So-min looked up from her console. That's odd. Why would they assume we want to surrender? Security Chief Choi Hyun-woo checked his weapons one more time. Maybe because that's what other species do when they meet these aliens. Sir, I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Dr. Yoon Jae-min was busy taking readings of the alien technology around them. The energy signatures from this station are incredible. They're using power sources I can't even identify. These beings are definitely far more advanced than us. Navigation Officer Kim Tae-woo was studying the station structure. Captain, I count over 300 docking bays on this station alone, and there are dozens of similar stations throughout the system. This civilization must have millions of ships. That's a lot of firepower, Hyun-woo observed grimly. More signals came from the alien flagship. Yuri worked quickly to translate them. They're giving us specific docking instructions, she reported, but they're also asking about our compliance officer and tribute manifest. I don't think they understand that we're not here to surrender. Daeho made a decision. Yuri, send them a message. Tell them we're peaceful explorers who would like to establish diplomatic relations. Make it clear that we represent the human species and come in friendship. Sir, should I mention that we got here by accident? Yuri asked. Let's save that for later. For now, let's focus on not getting blown up. The message was sent. The response came back quickly, and Yuri frowned as she tried to understand it. Captain, their reply is confusing. They're using words that translate to impossible protocol and unprecedented behavior. I think we're not acting the way they expect. How are we supposed to act? So-min wondered. Based on their language patterns, I think other species usually beg for mercy and offer immediate surrender when they meet these aliens. Daeho smiled slightly. Well, that's not really our style. The Baekdu was guided into a massive docking bay. As the ship settled into position, the crew could see alien beings moving around outside. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to change color. Their movements were precise and coordinated. First look at our hosts, Dr. Yoon said excitedly. They appear to be highly organized and technologically sophisticated. Notice how their equipment seems to respond to their thoughts rather than manual controls. Through the communication system, they heard new voices. These were different from the previous signals, more authoritative and commanding. Yuri worked to translate the new messages. Captain, I think we're about to meet someone important. The title patterns suggest high rank, possibly a military commander. Let's hope they're reasonable, Hyun-woo muttered. The alien voices continued, and Yuri's translation improved with each exchange. They're asking permission to board our ship, she reported. It sounds formal, but I get the impression that no isn't really an option. Tell them they're welcome aboard, Daeho decided, but make it clear that we expect the same courtesy in return. Sir, is that wise? Hyun-woo asked. We don't know their intentions. We're going to have to trust them eventually. Might as well start now. A group of alien beings entered the ship through the docking tunnel. They moved with military precision, their colorful skin shifting through different patterns as they walked. The leader was taller than the others and wore what appeared to be a uniform with complex symbols. Daeho and his senior officers met them in the main cargo bay. The aliens stopped a few meters away and began making sounds that the ship's computers were working to translate. The alien leader spoke and Yuri listened through her earpiece to the computer's translation. "He says his name is Admiral Vextar of the 5th Dominion Fleet," she reported. "He's asking why we haven't begun surrender procedures." Daeho stepped forward and bowed slightly, the way he might greet a foreign dignitary on Earth. "Please tell Admiral Vextar that I am Captain Lee Daeho of the Earth vessel Baekdu. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly relations between our peoples," Yuri translated, and the alien's skin patterns shifted rapidly. The Admiral made more sounds, clearly confused. "He's asking about our tribute offerings and wants to know where our compliance certificates are," Yuri reported. "I don't think he understands that we're not surrendering." "Try explaining that we're explorers, not invaders," Daeho suggested. The translation process continued, but the confusion on both sides was obvious. The aliens seemed completely unprepared for humans who didn't immediately submit to their authority. Admiral Vexitar spoke again, this time with what sounded like frustration. "He says that in 5,000 years of conquest, no species has ever failed to recognize Dominion authority," Yuri translated. "He's asking if we understand the consequences of resistance." Dr. Yoon stepped forward, unable to contain his scientific curiosity. "Ask him about their civilization. How many worlds do they control? How long have they been spacefaring?" The Admiral's skin patterns changed again when this question was translated. He seemed surprised that anyone would ask about such things instead of begging for mercy. "He says the Dominion controls 40,000 worlds and has existed for over 8,000 years, Yuri reported. "But he seems confused about why we want to know." So Min was studying the aliens' equipment with professional interest. "Their technology is impressive but not impossible to understand. Different from ours but based on similar principles." One of the other aliens noticed her attention and made rapid sounds. The Admiral responded, then spoke to the humans again. "Admiral wants to know why our engineer is examining their equipment instead of surrendering her tools and weapons," Yuri said. "Tell him she's curious about their technology and would like to learn more about it," Daeho replied. This translation caused even more confusion among the aliens. They spoke rapidly among themselves, their skin patterns flashing in complex sequences. Finally, the Admiral spoke again, this time sounding less commanding and more puzzled. "He's asking if we understand that they could destroy our ship easily," Yuri translated. "He seems to think we don't realize how outmatched we are." Daeho nodded. "Tell him we understand they have superior technology and numbers, but explain that we still hope to talk peacefully." The Admiral's response was immediate and obviously frustrated. He says that inferior species don't talk peacefully with the Dominion. They surrender completely or they're destroyed. He's asking which option we choose. Hyunwoo tensed, ready for trouble. But Daeho remained calm. "Tell him we choose a third option, friendship and mutual cooperation." When this was translated, the Admiral and his companions went completely still. Their skin patterns stopped changing, and they stared at the humans in what appeared to be shock. After a long moment, the Admiral spoke again, his voice much quieter. "He's asking if we're serious," Yuri reported. "He says no species has ever suggested cooperation with the Dominion as equals." "Well," Daeho said with a slight smile, "there's a first time for everything." The aliens spoke among themselves for several minutes. Their conversation seemed heated, with rapid changes in skin color and urgent gestures. Finally, the Admiral turned back to the humans and spoke in what sounded like a more formal tone. "He says he needs to consult with higher authorities," Yuri translated. "Our unprecedented behavior requires special consideration." "That sounds promising," Dr. Yoon said quietly. "Or dangerous," Hyunwoo added. The Admiral spoke again, giving what appeared to be instructions. "He says we're to remain here under guard while he reports to his superiors," Yuri reported. But he's using the word for honored guests rather than prisoners. I suppose that's progress, So-min observed. As the aliens prepared to leave, one of them approached Dr. Yoon and made curious sounds while pointing at his scientific equipment. I think he's asking about your instruments, Yuri said. Dr. Yoon showed the alien his scanner and explained its basic functions. The alien's skin patterns brightened with what appeared to be interest. Scientific curiosity might be universal, Dr. Yoon noted hopefully. After the aliens left, the crew gathered in the ship's meeting room to discuss what had happened. Well, that was interesting, Daeho said. Any thoughts? They're clearly a military empire used to conquering other species, Hyunwoo observed. The fact that we didn't immediately surrender has confused them. Their technology is advanced but not magical, So-min added. Given time, I think we could understand and even improve on some of their systems. Yuri was reviewing the translation. Data. Their language has dozens of words for different types of submission and surrender, but very few words for cooperation between equals. That tells us a lot about their society. Dr. Yoon was excited despite the circumstances. We're witnessing something unique in galactic history. First contact. The journey to the Dominion Council chambers took Captain Daeho and his crew through sections of the massive space station they never could have imagined. The corridors were wide enough for small spacecraft, and the ceilings were so high they seemed to disappear into darkness above. Alien beings of dozens of different species moved through the halls, but Daeho noticed something interesting about their behavior. They all keep their heads down, he observed quietly to Dr. Yoon Jae-min as they walked. None of them make eye contact with the Admiral or his guards. Submissive behavior, Dr. Yoon agreed. This Dominion clearly rules through intimidation. Security. Chief Choi Hyunwoo was watching everything carefully. The alien guards around them carried weapons that hummed with energy, but they seemed more confused than threatening. Sir, I don't think they know how to handle us. We're not acting like the other species here. Good, Daeho replied. Let's keep it that way. Communications specialist Han Yuri was listening to conversations around them through her translation equipment. Captain, I'm picking up a lot of chatter about us. Word is spreading that there are beings here who don't follow normal Dominion protocols. Chief Engineer Park So-min was more interested in the technology around them. Every surface seemed to be made of materials that could change their properties at will. Lights appeared where needed, and doors opened without any visible controls. This is incredible engineering, she said quietly, but I can see several ways to improve the efficiency of their power systems. Admiral Vextar led them to a transportation platform that moved through the station at incredible speed. As they traveled, they passed through areas where different alien species lived and worked. Each group seemed to have its own section, separated from the others. Segregated by species, Yuri noted. And I'm noticing a clear hierarchy. Some species have better living areas than others. Conquest has its ranks, Hyunwoo said grimly. They finally arrived at what was clearly the most important part of the station. The architecture here was grander and more impressive than anything they had seen before. Massive statues of alien warriors lined the halls, and the walls were covered with what appeared to be symbols of conquest and victory. The seat of power, Dr. Yoon observed. They certainly want visitors to be impressed. Are you impressed? Daeho asked. By the engineering, yes. By the politics, not so much. Admiral Vextar stopped before enormous doors that were at least 30 meters tall. He spoke to the guards, who looked surprised when they saw the human delegation. The Admiral is explaining who we are, Yuri translated. The guards seemed confused about the protocols for unconquered visitors. The doors opened slowly, revealing a chamber so vast that the far end was barely visible. Thousands of alien beings filled the space, arranged in a complex pattern that clearly indicated rank and status. At the center of it all was a raised platform where the most important figures sat. The Dominion Council, Admiral Vextar announced through Yuri's translation. As they entered the chamber, conversations stopped and thousands of eyes turned to watch the humans. The silence was complete and somewhat intimidating. They're all staring, Taewoo whispered. Let them, Daeho replied calmly. We're probably the most interesting thing that's happened here in centuries. They were led to the center of the chamber, where a circle of space had been cleared. Above them, on the raised platform, sat beings that were clearly the leaders of this vast empire. The central figure was enormous, even by alien standards, with skin that seemed to be made of living metal and eyes that glowed with their own light. "That's the Emperor," Yuri said quietly as her equipment analyzed the formal language being used to introduce him. "Emperor Zul'Gath, ruler of all Dominion space, master of 40,000 worlds." "Impressive titles," Deho noted. The Emperor spoke, and his voice filled the entire chamber without any visible amplification. "He's welcoming us to his presence," Yuri translated, "but he's also asking why we haven't prostrated ourselves before his throne." "Because we're not subjects," Deho replied. "Tell him we greet him as the representative of our species, and we hope to establish friendly relations between our peoples." When this was translated, a murmur went through the chamber. Clearly, no one had expected such a response. The Emperor spoke again, and his tone was curious rather than angry. "He's asking about our species and our homeworld," Yuri reported. "He wants to know how many worlds we control and how large our military forces are." Dr. Yoon stepped forward slightly. "Tell him we come from one world called Earth, and that we're explorers rather than conquerors." This translation caused an even larger reaction from the assembled aliens. Many of them began talking among themselves, creating a buzz of conversation throughout the chamber. They seemed surprised that a single world species would dare approach the Dominion, Yuri observed. The Emperor raised what appeared to be a hand, and immediate silence returned to the chamber. He spoke again, this time with what sounded like amusement. "He says he's curious about beings who travel so far from home with such small numbers," Yuri translated. "He's asking what we hope to accomplish here." Somin spoke up. "Tell him we're interested in learning about other civilizations and sharing knowledge that might benefit everyone." "Sharing knowledge?" The Emperor's response came through Yuri. "He's asking what knowledge a single world species could possibly have that would interest the Dominion." "Plenty," Somin replied confidently. "For example, I've noticed several inefficiencies in your power distribution systems that could be easily corrected." When this was translated, the Emperor's glowing eyes focused directly on Somin. He spoke rapidly to one of his advisors, who immediately began making what appeared to be urgent communications. "I think you just got his attention," Deho said quietly. "He's asking for specific examples," Yuri reported. Somin began explaining some basic engineering principles using her portable computer to show diagrams and calculations. The Emperor listened carefully, occasionally asking questions through the translation system. "She's right," one of the Dominion engineers finally admitted through Yuri's equipment. "These modifications could increase efficiency by significant amounts." The Emperor's skin patterns shifted to what appeared to be a more pleasant configuration. He spoke again, this time directly to Somin. "He's asking if you would be willing to examine other systems," Yuri translated. "I'd be happy to," Somin replied. "In exchange for what?" the Emperor asked. "Knowledge," Dr. Yoon interjected. "We'd like to learn about your civilization and share information about ours." This concept seemed to puzzle the Emperor greatly. He spoke with his advisors for several minutes before responding. "He says that the Dominion typically takes knowledge from conquered species, not trades for it," Yuri reported. "He's asking why we think we can negotiate as equals." "Because we are equals," Deho said simply. "We may have less advanced technology, but we have our own skills and knowledge to offer. And we're not interested in conquering anyone," Hyunwoo added. "We just want to explore and learn." The Emperor's response was immediate and clearly surprised. "He's asking if we're serious about not wanting to conquer other species," Yuri said. "Completely serious," Deho confirmed. "We've never conquered another species in our entire history." "Never?" the Emperor asked through the translation. "Never," Dr. Yoon confirmed. "Humans sometimes fight among themselves, but we've never encountered another intelligent species before today." This revelation caused the biggest reaction yet from the assembled aliens. Conversations broke out all over the chamber, and the Emperor had to call for silence several times. They're having trouble believing that an intelligent species could exist without conquering others, Yuri observed. It's probably a foreign concept to them, Dr. Yoon said. Their entire civilization seems built around dominance and submission, the Emperor spoke again, this time with what sounded like genuine curiosity. He's asking how human society functions without conquest and forced hierarchy, Yuri translated. Through cooperation and mutual benefit, Daeho explained. We work together because it's more effective than fighting. And more pleasant, So-min added. The Emperor considered this for a long moment. Then he spoke to one of his advisors, who immediately left the chamber. He's calling for someone, Yuri reported. I think we're about to meet more of their leadership. While they waited, other members of the council began asking questions. These aliens seemed genuinely curious about human society and technology. Dr. Yoon was delighted to answer their questions about Earth's history and scientific achievements. They're particularly interested in our peaceful exploration programs, Yuri noted. The concept of traveling to other worlds just to learn rather than conquer seems fascinating to them. Maybe because it's something they've never considered, Hyunwoo suggested. A new group of aliens entered the chamber. These were clearly different from the military officers they had met before. Their clothing and equipment suggested they were scientists and administrators rather than warriors. The Emperor spoke to this new group, explaining the situation. Then he turned back to the humans. He's asking if we would be willing to demonstrate some of our technological innovations, Yuri translated. What kind of demonstration? So-min asked. He wants to see if our engineering approaches can. 6 months had passed since the Baekdu had accidentally entered Dominion space, and the changes were remarkable. Director Lee Yoon-ji stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed human embassy, watching ships from dozens of species come and go from the massive station. What had once been a center of military dominance was slowly becoming something else entirely. The traffic patterns have completely changed, observed Captain Na Dong-min, the military liaison who had arrived with the second wave of human diplomats. 6 months ago, all ship movements were strictly controlled by military protocols. Now I see civilian vessels, trading ships, even what appear to be tourist craft. Professor Oh Sang-wook, the anthropologist studying Dominion society, nodded as he made notes on his tablet. The social changes are even more dramatic than the technological ones. I've documented over 300 instances of interspecies cooperation that would have been impossible under the old system. Yoonji smiled as she watched a group of young aliens from different species working together on some kind of construction project. The children adapt fastest. They don't have the same fear of change that their parents do. Down in the embassy's OR technical section, Chief Engineer Park So-min was leading a mixed group of human and alien engineers through another system improvement project. The aliens had quickly learned to appreciate human problem-solving methods, and the results were impressive. The power efficiency improvements alone have saved the Dominion enough energy to power 3 entire star systems, reported engineering specialist Kim Jae-won, one of So-min's assistants. And that's just from the modifications we've made to this station. The ripple effects are even more significant, So-min replied as she reviewed the latest efficiency reports. When you improve one system, it affects everything connected to it. The Dominion is discovering that cooperation and knowledge sharing produce better results than conquest and forced labor. In the embassy's communication center, Han Yuri was monitoring transmissions from across Dominion space. The traffic was unlike anything the Dominion had seen before. I'm picking up signals from 17 different rebellion movements, she reported to Yoonji during their daily briefing. But here's the interesting part. They're not asking for military support. They want to know about this thing called democracy and how to establish cooperative governments. How is the Emperor responding to these requests? Yoonji asked. That's the remarkable part. Instead of sending military forces to crush the movements, he's sending diplomatic teams to negotiate peaceful transitions. He's using human mediation techniques to resolve conflicts that would have resulted in planetary bombardments just months ago. Captain Na Dong-min was studying these developments with professional interest. The strategic implications are significant. The Dominion's military is designed for conquest and suppression. They're having to completely rethink their approach to governance. Change is never easy, Professor O observed, but the Dominion is learning that there are alternatives to rule through fear. In another part of the station, Dr. Yoon Jae-min was working with a team of Dominion scientists on what they called the Cultural Exchange Project. The goal was to document and understand the different approaches to civilization that existed throughout Dominion space. We've identified over 2,000 distinct cultural approaches among the conquered species, reported research assistant Dr. Bae Soo-jin. Many of them had democratic or cooperative traditions before the Dominion conquest. They're eager to revive these systems. The challenge is adapting these traditions to work within the larger Dominion framework, Dr. Yoon explained. We can't simply impose human-style democracy on every world. Each species needs to find its own path to self-governance. The work was complicated by the fact that many species had forgotten their pre-conquest traditions after centuries of Dominion rule. But gradually, with human assistance, these cultures were beginning to rediscover their own identities. It's like watching civilizations wake up from a long sleep, Dr. Bae observed. The changes weren't limited to politics and technology. Human entertainment had become incredibly popular throughout Dominion space. Music, movies, games, and books from Earth were being translated into hundreds of alien languages. The cultural impact is unprecedented, reported media specialist Jung Hai-won. Human concepts like individual expression, creative freedom, and personal choice are spreading faster than we can track. What's the reaction from Dominion authorities? Eunji asked. Mixed. The older generation of leaders is concerned about losing control, but the younger generation, especially those in administrative and scientific roles, are embracing the changes. They see the benefits of a more open society. And the emperor? He's cautiously supportive. He's realized that happy subjects are more productive than terrified ones. The most significant changes were happening at the individual level. Aliens who had spent their entire lives following strict hierarchical rules were learning to make their own decisions and express their own opinions. Security Chief Choi Hyun-woo had noticed this during his daily patrols around the station. The body language has changed completely. 6 months ago, everyone walked with their heads down, avoiding eye contact. Now they stand straighter, look around, even smile sometimes. Fear is being replaced by curiosity, Professor O noted. It's one of the most fundamental shifts a society can experience. But not everyone was happy with the changes. A significant faction within the Dominion viewed human influence as a threat to their way of life. We're receiving reports of organized resistance to the reforms, Captain Na reported during a security briefing. Some of the older military commanders are forming what they call purity movements dedicated to preserving traditional Dominion values. How serious is the threat? Yoon-ji asked. Significant. These aren't just political protests. We have intelligence suggesting they're planning direct action against human facilities and the aliens who work with us. Hyun-woo had been tracking these developments through his security networks. The resistance is well organized and well funded. They have support from some of the most powerful families in the Dominion hierarchy. What's their specific goal? Professor O asked. To eliminate human influence and return the Dominion to its traditional conquest-based system, Na replied. They see cooperation and democracy as weaknesses that will make the Dominion vulnerable to external threats. The situation came to a head when intelligence reports indicated that the resistance was planning a coordinated attack on human facilities across multiple star systems. The target list includes our embassy, the research stations, and the diplomatic missions on 12 different worlds, Hyun-woo reported grimly. They're planning to strike simultaneously to maximize the psychological impact. Yoon-ji called an emergency meeting with her senior staff. Options? We could request Dominion military protection, Na suggested. The Emperor has made it clear that he supports our presence here. That would undermine everything we've accomplished, Professor O objected. Using Dominion military force to protect human civilians would validate the Resistance's claims that we're just another form of conquest. So what do you suggest? Hyun-woo asked. We handle this ourselves, Yoon-ji decided. but not the way the resistance expects. What do you mean? Somin asked. They expect us to either flee in fear or call for military protection. Instead, we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to solve the problem creatively. Over. The next several days, the humans worked with their alien allies to develop an unprecedented response to the resistance threat. Instead of preparing for combat, they prepared for communication. We're going to invite the resistance leaders to public debates, Yunji announced. Let them present their arguments against human influence, and we'll present ours in favor of cooperation. You want to debate with people who are planning to attack us? Na asked incredulously. I want to give them a platform to express their concerns without violence, Yunji replied. Most conflicts arise from misunderstanding and fear. If we can address those issues directly, we might prevent the violence entirely. And if they refuse to debate and attack anyway, Hyunwoo asked, then we'll deal with that when it happens. But I think we might be surprised by how many of them are willing to talk instead of fight. The debate invitations were sent out publicly, along with a challenge. Let the people of the Dominion hear both sides and decide for themselves which path was better. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Trillions of beings across Dominion space demanded to hear the debates. The resistance leaders found themselves in an impossible position: refuse the debates and appear afraid of open discussion, or accept and risk having their arguments dismantled publicly. Brilliant strategy, Professor O admitted. You've turned their planned attack into a public relations opportunity. Humans don't win through force, Yunji replied. We win through better ideas. The debates were held in the main assembly hall of the station, with simultaneous broadcasts to every world in Dominion space. The resistance leaders came prepared with arguments about tradition, stability, and the dangers of change. The humans came prepared with evidence. In the 6 months since human-Dominion cooperation began, Yunji presented to the audience, productivity has increased by 1 year after the Baekdu had accidentally changed the course of galactic history. General Kim Bo-ra stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship Sejong. She was watching the final preparations for what everyone hoped would be a peaceful transition, but she was ready for trouble if it came. Status report, she requested from her staff. All democratic transition ceremonies are proceeding on schedule across 40,000 worlds, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Park Min-ji. We're monitoring the situations on the 12 worlds where resistance movements were most active. Any problems so far? Bo-ra asked. Minor protests on 3 worlds, but nothing that local authorities can't handle, replied intelligence specialist Major Yoon Tae-hyun. The surprising thing is how smoothly most transitions are going. Bo-ra nodded. It had been a remarkable year. What started as an accidental first contact had grown into the largest peaceful political transformation in galactic history. The Galactic Dominion was becoming the Galactic Federation, and humanity was helping to guide the process. On the bridge of the exploration vessel Hala, Captain Seo Jun-ho was leading a joint human-alien crew on a mission to establish contact with the newly formed democratic governments. His ship was one of 50 vessels carrying diplomatic teams to worlds that were experiencing freedom for the first time in centuries. Captain, we're receiving transmissions from the Kalara system, reported his communications officer Lieutenant Han Da-yoon. The Planetary Council wants to know if we can help them establish trade relationships with other worlds. Tell them we'd be happy to facilitate introductions, Seo replied. That's what we're here for. His first officer, a tall alien named Veltara, who had joined the crew 6 months earlier, observed the proceedings with interest. Your species has a remarkable talent for bringing others together, Captain. We've had a lot of practice, Seo replied with a smile. Humans have been trying to get along with each other for thousands of years. We're pretty good at it by now. Meanwhile, on the former Dominion capital world, now renamed Unity Prime, Prince Morkotha was preparing for his new role as the first elected leader of the Galactic Federation. The transition from hereditary monarchy to democratic federation had been his idea, supported enthusiastically by his aging father. The final vote tallies are coming in, reported his aide, a human diplomat named Ambassador Kang Min-ho. 93% of all eligible beings voted in favor of the new Federation Charter. Remarkable, Morkotha said. My father ruled through fear for 8,000 years, and yet the people choose cooperation over conquest by an overwhelming margin. Fear is a temporary motivator, Kang explained. Hope is much more powerful in the long run. In the Federation's new capital complex, Professor Oh Sang-wook was working with teams of scholars from hundreds of species to write the historical record of these unprecedented changes. The project had become one of the largest collaborative, academic efforts in galactic history. The sociological implications are staggering, reported Dr. Chen Wei-ming, one of the human researchers. We're documenting the transformation of an entire galactic civilization from militaristic hierarchy to democratic cooperation. What's most interesting is how quickly it happened, added Dr. Bae Soo-jin. Political scientists always assumed that such massive cultural changes would take generations. Instead, it happened in less than 2 years. That's the power of an idea. Whose time has come, Professor O replied. Democracy and cooperation aren't human inventions. They're natural tendencies that every intelligent species possesses. The Dominion just forgot how to use them. But not everyone was celebrating the changes. In a hidden facility on a remote world, the remnants of the Dominion hardliners were planning one final attempt to restore the old order. General Mordak, who had led the resistance to human influence, stood before a gathering of military officers and nobles who refused to accept the new reality. The corruption spreads, he announced to his followers. Worlds that once trembled at the mention of Dominion power now ignore our authority completely. Species that knew their place now demand equality. This madness must end. What do you propose? Asked Admiral Kethvar, one of the few fleet commanders who still supported the old ways. We eliminate the source of the corruption, Mordak replied. The humans have made themselves vulnerable by spreading across Federation space. If we remove their key leaders simultaneously, the entire democratic movement will collapse. And then, Kethvar asked, then we restore proper order. The weak worlds will remember why they feared the Dominion, and the strong will reassert their natural dominance. The plan was simple and brutal. Coordinated assassinations of human diplomats, followed by military strikes against worlds that had embraced democracy. The goal was to create enough chaos and fear to justify a return to authoritarian. But the hardliners had made a crucial error. They were planning their operations using the old Dominion communication networks, which were now monitored by Federation intelligence services. On Unity Prime, Intelligence Director Kim Hye-jin was reviewing intercepts of the conspiracy communications. With growing concern, they're planning to strike at the Federation ceremony, she reported to General Bo-ra via secure channel. 23 simultaneous attacks across the core worlds, timed to coincide with Prince Morkotha's inauguration. How many of our people are at risk? Bo-ra asked. All of them. Every major human diplomatic mission is on their target list. Recommendations? We could evacuate our people and call off the ceremony. That would save lives, but it would also give the hardliners exactly what they want. Proof that democracy makes the Federation weak and vulnerable. Bo-ra considered the options. The safe choice was to retreat and let Federation security forces handle the threat, but that would undermine everything humanity had worked to build. Alternative suggestions? She asked. We handle this the human way, Kim replied. We turn their strength against them and solve the problem so thoroughly that it never comes up again. Explain. The hardliners are expecting us to either flee or fight. Instead, we invite them to join the democratic process. Bo-ra was quiet for a moment. You want to invite people who are planning to assassinate our diplomats to participate in democracy? I want to offer them something they've never had before, a voice in the new government. Most of the resistance comes from fear of being left behind. If we can address that fear, we eliminate the motivation for violence. It was a risky strategy, but it was also distinctly human. Instead of responding to threats with counter-threats, they would respond with opportunities. The plan was implemented immediately, Public invitations were sent to all former Dominion leaders, including those known to be part of the resistance movement. They were invited to participate in the new Federation government, with positions specifically created to represent traditional viewpoints and conservative values. "You're giving them what they want?" General Mordak asked incredulously, when the invitation was delivered to his secret base. "We're giving them a chance to shape the future instead of being destroyed by it," replied Ambassador Lee Sung-ho, who had volunteered to deliver the message personally despite the obvious danger. "Why should we trust you?" Admiral Kethfar demanded. "Because we're offering you something the old Dominion never did," Lee replied. "A choice." The debates that followed were intense and sometimes hostile. The hardliners presented their concerns about Federation weakness, loss of traditional values, and the dangers of democratic chaos. The Federation representatives responded with patience, facts, and genuine attempts to address legitimate concerns. "Your worry about external threats is valid," acknowledged Defense Minister General Na Dongmin during one debate. "But consider this, the Federation now has the willing cooperation of 40,000 worlds. That's far more military strength than the Dominion ever possessed through conquest." "What about economic stability?" demanded Finance Admiral Zorketh. "Democratic chaos will destroy the efficiency of our economic systems." "The evidence suggests otherwise," replied Economic Advisor Dr. Choi Jae-won. "Voluntary cooperation is consistently more productive than forced labor. Federation worlds are already showing increased prosperity." "But what about our traditions?" asked cultural conservator Melthera. "Human influence is destroying everything that made the Dominion unique." "We're not trying to make everyone human," Professor O replied gently. "We're trying to help every species become the best version of itself. Democracy doesn't require abandoning tradition. It requires choosing which traditions are worth keeping." Slowly, reluctantly, some of the hardliners began to see possibilities they hadn't considered before. They could maintain their values and their influence, but through persuasion rather than force. "If we join this federation," General Mordak finally asked, "what guarantee do we have that our voices will be heard?" "The same guarantee everyone else has," Prince Morkotha replied. "The right to vote, the right to speak, and the right to try to convince others that your ideas are better. And if we lose those debates, then you accept the will of the majority and try again next time. That's how democracy works." It wasn't a perfect solution. Some hardliners remained committed to violence and had to be stopped by Federation security forces. But the majority chose to work within